My son-in-law told me my dog was dead. He showed up at my house in the quiet part of Savannah with a hastily bandaged hand and a small, heavy bronze urn. He told me the dog had snapped, that he'd had no choice, that it was for my own safety now that my husband was gone. I believed him. What else could I do? Vincent was family. 3 nights later, I woke up around 2 in the morning. A sound was coming from the backyard, a wet, rhythmic scraping. Subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments which country you're watching from. Let's see. I saw something moving near the cedar garden he'd built for my late husband. Something dark and big. It was the dog. Shadow. Alive. Digging frantically in the spot he'd been obsessed with for weeks. The same spot Vincent had nearly lost his mind trying to stop him from touching. I went outside. The dog looked at me once, a quick, desperate acknowledgement, then kept digging like his life depended on hitting pay dirt. So I got on my knees in the cool, humid air and helped him. When our combined efforts finally hit metal, when I pried open the lid of that box, I finally understood. I understood why Vincent had lied. Why my husband, Arthur, had given me this specific dog before he died. Why my daughter, Charlotte, had been pulling away from me for years. And I realized I had less than 1 day to decide what to do about a monster hiding in plain sight. My name is Evelyn, and this is my story. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and subscribe to our channel. We're building a community of people who know that our sharpest instincts and best chapters can happen at any age. Now back to the story. The day I buried my husband, I had no idea my life was about to become a thriller I wouldn't recognize. His name was Arthur. We'd been married for 40 years, built a quiet life together here in the historic district of Savannah, Georgia. He was a brilliant landscape architect, and I taught history at the local university. 2 people who thought they could map out the rest of their days, or at least their corner of it. The cancer took him. Pancreatic, the kind that steals time fast once it sets in. He had a year from diagnosis to the end. We brought in hospice care. He was a creature of routine and home. He wanted to be nowhere else. So that's where he died. In our bedroom overlooking the moss-draped oak trees, with me holding his hand. The funeral was on a Wednesday. I remember standing at the door of the old First Presbyterian Church, greeting people I'd known for decades, friends, clients, colleagues. Everyone looked at me with those sad, cautious eyes. The ones that say they don't know what to say, so they'll just squeeze your hand and murmur something about the tragedy of it all. Charlotte showed up late. My daughter. She's 36 now, though I still see her as the little girl who used to sit in my university office drawing pictures while I graded papers. She slipped into a back pew just as the service started. I saw her from the front row, thin, too thin, wearing a thick black tailored suit despite the oppressive June humidity. Vincent, her husband of 5 years, sat next to her. He had his hand on her knee, that possessive, protective husband gesture. But something about it looked wrong. It was tight, almost a grip. I tried to catch Charlotte's eye during the hymns, but her head remained bowed. Vincent kept glancing down at his phone, never a good look at a memorial service. The service was short. Arthur had been specific about that in his final instructions. No long eulogies, just a few words, some music he loved, and let people get on with their lives. That was Arthur. Practical even in the face of forever. Afterward, people gathered in the parish hall. Someone had brought in catering little cucumber sandwiches and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since the Reagan administration. I stood near the door because I felt untethered, unable to locate my own body in the room. That's when Chief Miller found me. He and Arthur had been inseparable since childhood. Miller went into law enforcement, spending decades with the Savannah Police Department before retiring a few years back around the same time Arthur had stopped taking new commissions. He's a big man, the kind who looks like he could still command a room even now in his mid-60s. He pulled me aside away from the murmuring crowd. "Evelyn," he said. His voice was quiet, respectful. "I need to talk to you somewhere private." Arthur asked me to do something for him before he passed. We went outside to the parking lot. The June sun was beating down, brutal after the cool air conditioning inside. I could feel sweat starting to bead at the back of my neck. "Arthur asked me to make sure you got something," Miller said. I looked at him confused. He walked me over to his truck, an older, well-maintained silver pickup. He opened the back door. There was a dog inside. A Belgian Malinois, muscular, maybe 75 pounds. It was sitting calmly on the back seat, watching us with dark, incredibly intelligent eyes. "This is Shadow," Miller said. "Arthur wanted you to have him." I stared at the dog, then at Miller. "A dog? Arthur got me a dog." "He wanted you to have a companion," Miller explained. "Someone to keep you company. Someone to protect you." Shadow tilted his head slightly. Still calm. Still watching. "Chief," I sighed. "I don't know if I can handle a dog right now. I'm barely handling a grocery run." "He's special," Miller insisted. "Incredibly. Well-trained, easy to manage. Arthur was very specific. He wanted you to have Shadow." I looked at the dog again. He was beautiful, taut, powerful, and focused, but so much responsibility. "Please, Evelyn," Miller said. "Trust Arthur on this. Trust me." I was too tired to argue, too devastated by grief to think clearly about the next 20 years. So I nodded. "All right. Okay." Miller's face relaxed slightly. He opened the door wider and Shadow climbed out, gracefully and silently. Miller handed me a heavy leather leash. "I've got food and supplies in the truck," he said. "I'll follow you home. Help you get him settled." We drove back to the house in separate vehicles. Shadow sat in my passenger seat, looking out the window as if he'd done this 1,000 times. Maybe he had. I didn't know anything about this dog or where Arthur had found him. At home, Miller brought in a massive bag of premium dog food, 2 stainless steel bowls, and a thick orthopedic bed. He showed me how much to feed Shadow, where he preferred to sleep, and the basic commands. "He's good, Evelyn," Miller reassured me. "He listens. Just treat him kindly, and he'll take care of you." "Where did Arthur even find him?" I asked again. "I helped him," Miller said. "Found a good dog who needed a home. Arthur met him a few times before he got too sick. He liked Shadow. Thought you two would be good for each other." Miller left after about an hour. I stood in the living room with this enormous, powerful dog I just inherited. Shadow sat down and looked up at me. "Well, I guess it's you and me now," I said. His tail gave a slight thump. Not a full wag, just an acknowledgement. A silent, watchful presence. The next day, Vincent showed up. I was in the kitchen trying to figure out what to eat. I hadn't had a genuine appetite in weeks. The doorbell rang, and there he was, standing on my porch with a bag of high-end groceries. "Hey, Mom," he said. He'd called me that since he married Charlotte. I never liked it, but I never corrected him. "Thought you might need some supplies," he offered. "Thank you, Vincent. That's kind." He came inside, setting the expensive organic groceries on the counter. That's when he saw Shadow, who was lying in the living room near the large velvet armchair, watching him silently. Vincent stopped dead. "That's a very large dog," he said. His voice changed instantly, going tight and controlled. "His name is Shadow. Arthur arranged for me to have him before he died." "Arranged?" Vincent's eyes remained fixed on the dog, who remained motionless but attentive. "When?" "Before he died. Walt Chief Miller brought him yesterday." "That seems like a lot for you to handle," Vincent pressed. "A dog that size. At your age, you sure you can manage a Malinois? They need extensive exercise." My back went perfectly straight. "I'm 69, Vincent, not 100. I can certainly handle a dog, especially one who seems this well behaved. I'm just saying it's a lot of work. Training, walking, vet bills. If you need help, I'm happy to help. Or," he paused meaningfully, "we could find him another, more suitable home." Shadow rose smoothly to his feet, walked over, and stood next to me. His presence a silent wall between Vincent and me. "Arthur wanted me to have him," I said, firm and quiet. "So I'm keeping him." Vincent nodded slowly, his lips thin. "Okay. Sure. He seems fine." Shadow stood next to me at the window, watching Vincent as he moved about the kitchen. "You don't like him much, do you?" I observed. Shadow's ears flattened slightly against his head. That evening my phone rang. "Charlotte." "Hi, Mom." "Hi, honey. How are you holding up?" "I'm okay. Just wanted to check on you. Vincent brought the groceries today." "That was nice of him. He told me." A significant pause. "He said you got a dog?" "Yes, Shadow." Arthur arranged it before he died. Chief Miller brought him. A Belgian Malinois? They're very serious dogs, she said, her voice sounding hollow like she was reading from a bad script. Yes. He's very calm, exceptionally well trained. Another pause, longer this time. Is he safe? Those dogs can be unpredictable, Mom. They can have a high drive. I just worry about you, Charlotte, I said. Living alone with a dog that big. What if something happens? Charlotte, I'm fine. Shadow is fine. Everything is fine. Okay, she said, though she didn't sound convinced. I should go. Vincent's home. Do you want to come over this weekend? We could have lunch. Maybe. I'll have to see what Vincent has planned. I'll call you. She hung up before I could say anything else. I sat there holding the phone, feeling that familiar knot in my stomach, the one I'd been feeling about Charlotte for the past few years. Something was wrong subtly and deeply, but I didn't know what it was. Shadow came over and put his narrow head on my knee. You're a good boy, I murmured, scratching behind his ears. I don't know why Arthur thought I needed you, but I'm glad you're here. A couple of weeks later, Vincent showed up with plans. I was in the backyard with Shadow when his expensive black truck pulled in. He came around the side of the house carrying a heavy roll of architectural paper. Hey, Mom. Got a minute? He spread the precise, detailed drawings on the patio table. Gorgeous raised beds with cedar borders, a winding path of white cobblestone, a wrought iron bench, and spaces marked for Arthur's favorite Savannah sweet tea roses. I want to build you a memorial garden, he announced. For Dad. He was good to me. I want to honor him. It was beautiful, thoughtful, and professional looking. Thank you, Vincent. That would be wonderful. I'll start next week. Don't worry about the cost. It's on me. He began the following Monday. He arrived early with cedar planks, bags of specialized soil, and heavy stone pavers. He worked alone mostly, though sometimes another man would show up to help. Vincent never introduced him, just a laborer. He dug deep. He said it was essential for the coastal drainage. The holes went down past my knees, far deeper than I would have thought necessary for roses. Shadow watched from the back door. Always watching. Can you keep the dog inside? Vincent asked on the second day, wiping sweat from his brow. He makes me nervous just staring like that. So, I kept Shadow in the house when Vincent worked. But the dog would sit at the window, eyes tracking Vincent's every movement, a low guttural rumble occasionally vibrating in his chest. Charlotte came by during the third week. I'd invited her for lunch. She arrived wearing a thick cotton cardigan over a long-sleeved shirt. It was 90 degrees outside. Vincent was in the backyard constructing the main raised beds. Charlotte went out to say hello. I watched from the kitchen. He put his arm around her shoulders. She went visibly stiff. His hand gripped tight enough that she winced before quickly covering it with a forced smile. When they came inside, Charlotte's smile looked brittle. The garden looks amazing, Vincent, she said mechanically. Her phone buzzed. She checked it immediately, typing a quick reply before slamming it down. Are you okay, honey? I asked. I'm fine, she insisted, wrapping her arms around herself. Just busy with work. Those long sleeves, I gently prompted. Aren't you hot? I'm always cold, she snapped, her voice too sharp. You know that. I did not know that, but I didn't push. We ate the chicken salad sandwiches I'd made. Charlotte kept checking her phone under the table. Vincent came in for water and put his hand on the back of her neck. She visibly jumped. Easy, babe, he chuckled, a sound that grated. Just me. After he went back outside, I tried again. Charlotte, if something is wrong. If you need to talk, dash. Her voice cut me off, high and defensive. Nothing is wrong. Why does everyone keep asking me that? She left soon after, barely finishing her lunch. I watched Vincent walk her to her car, his hand possessive and firm on her lower back. The garden was finished 3 weeks after he started. It was spectacular. The raised beds were perfect. The white cobblestone path looked professionally laid. A bronze plaque on the bench read, "In memory of Arthur Monroe, beloved husband and father." Vincent took photos with his phone, smiling next to the garden. I'll come by regularly, he promised. Water the plants, pull weeds. You shouldn't have to maintain it. After he left, I stood in the garden with Shadow. The dog sniffed around the new raised beds. His nose worked the air, highly focused near the far corner. Then he started pawing tentatively at the soil. Shadow, no. He looked at me, then dug again. I grabbed his heavy collar and pulled him away. It immediately became a pattern. Shadow would go straight to that corner and dig, or he'd sit and stare at the ground for 20 minutes at a time, his breathing shallow. Vincent noticed on one of his frequent maintenance visits. What in God's name is he doing? I don't know. He's fixated on that spot. Make him stop. Vincent's face was tightening with ill-concealed panic. I'm trying, Vincent. His face changed. That dog is too much for you, Evelyn. You really should rehome him before he ruins the structure. My spine stiffened. Arthur wanted me to have him. Arthur didn't know the dog would destroy his memorial. He's not destroying anything. Look at it. This is disrespectful. Vincent was almost shouting. Vincent, I am not getting rid of Shadow. He stared at me, then nodded slowly, his hands clenched. Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you. His visits became more frequent every couple of days. He always checked the garden, always watched Shadow. The dog's behavior got worse, more focused. He'd dig deeper holes before I could stop him. One morning, I found him sitting in front of the raised bed at dawn. A small, meticulously dug hole already started. Vincent showed up unannounced that afternoon. By the time I got outside, he was standing in the garden. Shadow had dug a significant hole in the far corner. Dirt everywhere. Arthur's roses tilted precariously. Vincent's face had gone paper white. This is out of control, he stated, his voice trembling. That dog is destroying everything I built. I don't understand why he keeps doing this. Because he's a bad dog. Destructive. You can't handle him. Vincent moved closer. That dog has to go, Evelyn. No, I repeated. Look at what he's doing to Dad's memorial. I'll fix it. I'll replant the roses. That's not the point. He was truly yelling now. You can't control him. You're not capable of managing a dog that size. You are a grieving elderly woman. Vincent, I said, cold as ice. I said no. We stared at each other, his hands balled into fists near his sides. Finally, he turned and stalked away, got in his truck, and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the house's windows. After he left, I stood looking at the hole Shadow had dug. It was deep, more than a foot down. Shadow sat next to it, not digging, just sitting, staring at me with those intense dark eyes. What are you trying to find? He didn't answer, just kept staring, like he was waiting for me to understand something I couldn't see. A week later, I spent the day at my friend Carol's house on Tybee Island. Thursday was our standing lunch date. Had been for years. We'd talk, have coffee, and I'd typically get home late in the afternoon. Vincent knew my routine perfectly. When I pulled my car into my driveway around 5 o'clock, his black truck was already parked there. That was immediately strange. He never came on Thursdays. He was sitting on my front porch steps. When he saw me, he stood up. His face was wrong, pale, drawn, and refusing to meet my eyes. I got out of my car. Vincent, what are you doing here? I need to tell you something, he said, his voice flat and rehearsed. About Shadow. I looked past him toward the front window. Shadow always waited there when I came home. His dark silhouette a comforting constant. The window was empty. Where is Shadow? I asked. Vincent held up his left hand. It was wrapped in thick white gauze from palm to wrist, with dark, angry patches of what was clearly blood seeping through in several spots. He attacked me, Vincent declared. This morning while you were at Carol's. I came by to quickly water the garden, and he just went for me. No warning. Ferocious. My purse slipped from my shoulder and hit the ground with a soft thud. Shadow wouldn't attack anyone unprovoked. Look at my hand, he yelled, thrusting it forward. He bit me hard. I had to go to urgent care for stitches and documentation. Where is he? Where is Shadow? Vincent finally met my eyes, and the look of false grief was chilling. I took him to the vet immediately after it happened. I didn't want to upset you while you're still grieving Arthur. I thought I could handle it myself. Handle what, Vincent? What did you do? Vincent's jaw tightened into a knot. The vet examined him, said a dog that aggressive, that unpredictable, Can't be trusted. He could have killed me. He could attack you next. My voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. What did you do? I had him put down, he said, spitting the words out quickly. I had to make a decision for your safety, Evelyn. He was cremated this afternoon. The world tilted. I grabbed the porch railing to steady myself. You killed my dog? I protected you from a dangerous animal, he countered, his voice too loud. You had no right. The words came out burning hot. That was Arthur's dog. His last gift to me. You had no right to make that decision. Vincent's face hardened. He attacked me. Look at my hand. What was I supposed to do? Wait for him to go after you next? He had shown dangerous aggression. You should have called me. Let me talk to Chief Miller. Let me talk to the vet myself. This was my choice to make, not yours. You're being emotional, Evelyn. You're not thinking clearly, he sneered. I did what needed to be done. I protected my family. He walked over to his truck and pulled a small plain metal urn from the passenger seat. It was maybe 8 inches tall. He came back and held it out. These are his ashes. I'm sorry it had to happen this way, but it was the right thing to do. I stared at the urn. I didn't take it. Vincent set it down on the porch railing. We stood there in silence for what felt like an eternity. He waited as if he expected me to crumble or even thank him. When I didn't say anything, he backed slowly toward his truck. I know you're upset, but in time you'll see I was looking out for you. He drove away without looking back. I stood there for a long time. The bronze urn sat on the railing. The Savannah heat pressed down, making my clothes stick to my back, but I couldn't move. Finally, I picked up the urn and went inside. I put it on the kitchen counter and just stood looking at it. Shadow's heavy stainless steel water bowl was still on the floor by the sink. His orthopedic bed was still in the corner of the living room. His leash hung on the hook by the back door. My phone rang. Charlotte. Mom. Vincent told me what happened. I'm so sorry. Her voice sounded wrong again. Flat. Like she was reading words someone else had written for her. Vincent killed my dog, Charlotte. He was protecting you. The dog attacked him. Shadow would never attack anyone unprovoked. He was gentle. You don't know that. Large high-drive dogs can be unpredictable, she argued, defending her husband, using Vincent's exact phrasing. Vincent was trying to help you, Mom. Help me? He took Arthur's dog and had him killed without consulting me. He took Arthur's final gift. Charlotte's voice rose, getting defensive. Vincent was trying to do the right thing. He was protecting you. Why can't you see that? I can see that you're defending him no matter what he does, Charlotte. Why are you so determined to protect him? Silence, then a door closing harshly in the background. Charlotte's voice dropped to a desperate, barely audible whisper. I have to go. Charlotte, wait. Please talk to me. The line went dead. I tried calling back. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. The first night I didn't sleep a wink. I kept expecting to hear Shadow's rhythmic breathing from the living room. I kept listening for his nails on the hardwood floor when he shifted positions. The silence felt heavy and wrong, like a missing limb. Around midnight, I went outside and sat on the wrought iron bench in the memorial garden, the one with Arthur's plaque. The garden looked perfect. Vincent had been maintaining it meticulously, but the far corner where Shadow had been digging looked recently disturbed, fresh dirt loosely covering the holes. Arthur, I whispered to the darkness. I lost you. Now I've lost Shadow. I'm losing Charlotte. I don't understand what's happening. The night didn't answer. Just the damp air and the distant sound of ships navigating the Savannah River. I sat there until the mosquitoes got too bad, then went back inside and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The second night was the same agonizing cycle. I kept thinking about Vincent's face when he saw Shadow digging, that white, panicked look, the way his hands clenched into fists, the desperate quality of his subsequent visits. I thought about Charlotte's voice on the phone, the script-like quality, the defensiveness that smelled like fear. I thought about Arthur, lying in that hospice bed, insisting that Miller bring me Shadow, how specific he'd been about getting this exact dog. Nothing fit together. But there was a recognizable, sinister pattern somewhere I couldn't grasp. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and wandered through the house. I ended up in the kitchen drinking water I didn't want. Shadow's bowl was still on the floor. I'd meant to put it away but couldn't bring myself to do it. I picked it up, held the heavy, cool metal, and finally started crying big, messy, heartbroken sobs for my husband, my daughter, and my dead dog. That's when I heard the sound from the backyard. Scraping. Rhythmic. Like something digging with powerful claws. I froze and listened. There it was again. Definitely digging, and it sounded far bigger and more driven than a raccoon or an opossum. I crept to the back door and looked out the window. At first I couldn't see anything. The yard was pitch black, except for the dim security light near the old oak tree. Then something moved near the memorial garden. Large. Four-legged. I eased the door open and stepped onto the patio. The animal was in the far corner of the garden, the spot where Shadow had always dug. And it was digging frantically with dirt flying high into the night air. It stopped and turned its head toward me. My breath stopped completely. It was Shadow. Alive. Real. Standing in my garden, covered head to paw in mud and damp soil. For a second we just stared at each other across the 20 feet of lawn. Then he gave a weak, shaky wag of his tail, turned back to the hole, and started digging again, faster than before. I ran across the yard and dropped to my knees next to him. Shadow. Oh, Shadow. He looked at me. His eyes were different, exhausted, desperate, but still him. Still my dog. Put my hands on him. He was real. Warm. Breathing. His fur was matted with dirt and something crusty that might have been blood. His powerful paws were raw and visibly bleeding. Oh my God, you're alive. He licked my hand once, then pulled away and immediately went back to digging. What are you doing? What is down there? He dug deeper and faster, like he was racing against the dawn. I got next to him and started pulling dirt away with my hands. We dug together until my fingers hit something hard. Metal. I cleared more dirt away and found the corner of something. A box. Olive green, sealed, waterproof, a military-style ammunition or utility box. Shadow stopped digging. He sat back, his sides heaving, and looked at me, his gaze waiting and intense. I pulled the box free. It was surprisingly heavy, maybe 20 pounds. My hands were shaking as I flipped the two heavy-duty latches and opened the lid. Inside were packages, tightly vacuum-sealed and professionally labeled. 6 of them. White or off-white powder was visible through the thick, clear plastic. I didn't need a lab test to know what it was. This wasn't flour or fertilizer. Drugs. High-grade narcotics. Opioids. It had to be. Everything clicked into horrifying place at once. Vincent's elaborate garden project. The impossibly deep digging. The frequent maintenance visits. Shadow's obsessive focus on this exact spot. Vincent's panic. His desperate, murderous attempt to get rid of the dog. The fake euthanasia. Vincent had buried a serious amount of drugs, 6 kilos, in my backyard. Right under the plaque honoring Arthur. And Arthur had known. Somehow my quiet, practical husband had known. That's why he'd given me Shadow. A dog trained to find what was hidden. I looked at Shadow. He was swaying slightly, exhausted beyond measure. His paws were bleeding. His sides going in and out with ragged effort. You walked back. I whispered, tears streaming down my face. However far he took you, you walked back to finish this. He leaned against me, and I wrapped my arms around his muddy, wounded body. We need help. We need Miller. I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking too hard to dial accurately. I finally managed to connect with Chief Miller's number. It rang 4 times and I thought it would go to voicemail. Then he answered, voice thick with sleep. Evelyn, it's 2:30 in the morning. What is wrong? Shadow is alive, I gasped. He came back. Miller, I found drugs. Vincent buried 6 kilos of drugs in Arthur's memorial garden. A pause. Then Miller's voice came back, sharp and clear. All sleep was gone. Don't touch anything else. I'm on my way. 15 minutes. He hung up. I sat in the dirt, the open box of narcotics beside us, with Shadow leaning heavily into me, waiting for the cavalry. 15 minutes later, headlights swept across the front of the house. A truck door slammed. Fast, heavy footsteps came around the side of the house. Chief Miller appeared, moving faster than I'd seen him move in years. He was wearing sweatpants and a worn t-shirt. No shoes, just slippers. He had left in a severe hurry. He stopped dead when he saw us. Me sitting in the damp dirt, covered in mud. Shadow beside me, barely able to keep his head up. The metal box wide open between us. Jesus, Evelyn, Miller breathed. He came over and knelt down next to the box. He looked at the professionally wrapped packages inside without touching them. His face went instantly hard, transforming from the comforting friend to the career lawman. Opioids, he stated grimly. That packaging is high grade. This is fentanyl or pure heroin. That's at least 6 kilos. Vincent buried it here, in the garden he built for Arthur. Miller looked at Shadow. He really looked at him. He gently ran his hands over the dog's powerful body, checking for injuries. Shadow's tail moved weakly, just a flutter. This dog's been through hell, Evelyn. Look at those paws. Vincent told me he had him euthanized. I repeated, the lie tasting bitter and metallic. Said Shadow attacked him and he had to make a decision for my safety. I thought I had lost Shadow forever. Miller kept examining Shadow. He found scratches on his face and deeper, defensive wounds along his sides and shoulder. These are defensive wounds. He fought someone off. Vincent showed me a bite wound on his hand. Shadow bit him fighting for his life. I realized the full horror washing over me. Vincent tried to kill him. Probably took him somewhere remote, Miller confirmed. But Shadow got away. He walked back. Miller looked at me, his eyes full of respect. From however far Vincent drove him, this dog found his way home. I put my hand on Shadow's head. He leaned into the touch. To finish this, I whispered. To complete his mission. Miller stood up. We need to go inside. I need to make some calls. We got Shadow into the house. He could barely walk. Miller helped me get him settled gently onto his orthopedic bed with fresh water nearby. Then we sat at the kitchen table, the early morning light beginning to filter through the windows. Why here? I asked, my voice raw. Vincent has his own house, his business offices, storage units. Why would he bury this kind of haul in my backyard? Miller's jaw tightened. Because we've been watching him for months, Evelyn. His house, his business properties, his vehicles. Everything. Arthur came to me about 6 months before he died. He said he'd been watching Vincent for a while. The excessively expensive lifestyle, the sudden influx of cash, we estimated, he was handling close to $200,000 in unexplained funds over the last year, the evasiveness about his consulting work, the way Charlotte had changed. Arthur suspected Vincent was involved in something serious, something criminal, but he couldn't prove it. He never told me. He didn't want to worry you while he was sick. Didn't want you confronting Vincent without proof. So, he came to me, asked me to use my contacts at the department. I passed along Arthur's observations. They started looking into Vincent. Miller continued. The pieces were falling into place for the department and Vincent figured it out. Criminals always do. Eventually, they noticed the same subtle pressure. Vincent got paranoid, stopped using his usual stashes. He needed somewhere clean to hide his product temporarily. Somewhere the police had absolutely no reason to investigate. My house, I finished grimly. You were perfect from his perspective, Miller affirmed. Respectable property. Recently widowed homeowner. No criminal record. And he's your son-in-law. He has a legitimate, loving reason to be here. He built a memorial garden for his father-in-law. Who would question him digging in your yard? He could bury whatever he wanted. And it looked like love. How long was he planning to keep it here? Probably not long. Just until he thought the surveillance had died down. Then he'd come back, tell you he was maintaining the garden, and dig it up. You'd never know it was there. But Shadow found it. Miller nodded, looking toward the living room. Shadow is a retired K-9 bomb and narcotics detection dog. Arthur got him through my police network. Even retired, that specialized training never leaves them. The minute Shadow arrived, he could smell what was buried in that garden. That's why he kept digging. He was doing exactly what he was trained to do. Arthur knew, I whispered, the grief mixing with fierce pride. He knew Vincent was dangerous, and he got me a police dog specifically. He made sure I'd have protection and a way to find the evidence. Miller pulled out his phone, already making calls. It was 3 in the morning, but people answered. I sat there listening to half the conversation. Vincent's name, the address, the amount 6 kilos, the need to catch him retrieving the product. When he hung up, he said, "They're going to move on this, but we have a problem." "What is it?" "We can't just dig up the drugs and arrest Vincent. He'd claim he has no idea how they got there. He could say anyone buried them. We need to catch him retrieving them. That's the only way to prove they're his." "So what do? We make him desperate. Force his hand. Make him come for them right now, before he has time to think." "How?" Miller thought for a minute, tapping his finger on the table. "You call him. You tell him you're having work done. A landscaping company, the best in Savannah, is coming Monday morning to dig up the entire garden. You're going to expand it, add a huge water feature, maybe a new gazebo. They'll be taking everything out, digging deep, starting fresh." I understood immediately. If Vincent thinks a professional landscaping crew is going to dig up that corner, he'll have to get the drugs out before they arrive. This weekend. He won't have a choice. "And we'll be waiting," Miller confirmed. "The police will be here. Surveillance starting tomorrow night. Unmarked cars. Officers hidden. The minute Vincent starts digging, they'll let him get the drugs in his hands. Then they move in." I thought about it. About Vincent coming here to my house. About police surrounding my property. About Shadow, who could barely stand. "Shadow can't be here," I insisted. "Vincent can't know he's alive." "I agree," Miller said. "I'll take him with me. Get him to my vet first thing in the morning. He needs medical attention, fluids, antibiotics, those paws treated. He'll stay with me until this is over." "Will he be okay?" "He's tough. He'll be fine." This dog walked back to finish a mission. That kind of drive doesn't quit easy. We sat in silence for a minute, the reality settling over me. "You'll need to act normal," Miller cautioned. "Tomorrow night, invite Vincent and Charlotte to dinner. Friday, make it seem routine. That's when you casually mention the landscaping company. You can't let Vincent see that you know anything. I was a university history professor for 30 years, Miller. I can handle one dinner. It's just a performance. This isn't a classroom, Evelyn. This is your daughter's husband. Your daughter will be there. Can you really sit across from them and lie?" I thought about Arthur dying in our bedroom, using his last months to set this up, to protect me, to give me the tools I'd need. I thought about Charlotte, my daughter, trapped with a man who'd buried 6 kilos of poison in her father's memorial, and tried to murder an innocent dog to cover it up. I thought about Shadow lying in the next room, barely able to move but still breathing. "Yes," I said, a deep, resolved certainty settling over me. "I can do this." Miller pulled a thick, aged envelope from his pocket. "Arthur gave me this before he died. Made me promise to give it to you if Vincent ever showed his true nature. I think we're past that point now." He handed it to me. Arthur's distinctive, elegant handwriting was on the front. "For Evelyn. When she needs to know." My hand shook as I opened it. The letter was short. Arthur's handwriting was shaky, written in those final weeks. "My dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, then Vincent has done something that revealed what I suspected all along. I'm sorry I couldn't stop this before I ran out of time. I've been watching Vincent for the past 2 years. The lifestyle, the money, the evasiveness. Most of all, the way Charlotte changed after she married him. Quieter. More afraid. I suspected he was involved in something criminal, but I couldn't prove it. I shared everything with Chief Miller. Shadow is not just a companion. He's a retired canine trained in narcotics detection and protection. If Vincent is what I think he is, Shadow will find the evidence eventually, and he'll protect you until then. Trust Miller completely. He knows what to do. I hate that I won't be there to protect you myself, but I did everything I could to make sure you'd be safe when Vincent finally makes his move. Protect Charlotte. She's trapped with him and she's scared. When this is over, help her get free. I love you. I always have. I always will." I read it twice. Then I put it down on the table and finally let myself weep. Miller didn't say anything. He just sat there while I cried for the husband who'd protected me even after death. For the daughter I'd been too blind to save. For the dog lying in the next room who'd nearly died completing a mission for my safety. When I could talk again, I said, "He knew about Charlotte. He suspected Vincent was hurting her, but she wouldn't admit it. Wouldn't leave. Arthur thought, Miller finished softly. If we could get Vincent out of the picture, she'd finally be free. And now we can. Now we can, he agreed. We sat there planning. Miller would take Shadow when he left, get him to the vet, and keep him at his own house until this was over. Police would set up surveillance Saturday night. I'd have dinner with Vincent and Charlotte Friday evening, plant the seed about the landscaping, and then we'd wait. By the time Miller left, carefully carrying Shadow in his arms, dawn was breaking over Savannah. I stood in the doorway, watching him load Shadow gently into his truck. The dog looked back at me once before Miller closed the door. I went back inside. The house was too quiet again, but it was different this time. Felt like a stage being set. I cleaned the dirt off myself, changed clothes, and made coffee I didn't drink. I looked at the memorial garden through the kitchen window, the disturbed earth where Shadow had dug, the pristine raised beds hiding 6 kilos of poison underneath. One more day. One more performance. Then justice. Later, I picked up my phone and called Charlotte. Mom, is everything okay? I'm sorry to call so early. I just wanted to invite you and Vincent to dinner tomorrow night, Friday, I said, keeping my voice bright. I've been wanting to talk to you both about something. A pause. About what? Oh, nothing bad. I'm planning some changes to the garden. Thought you'd want to know. Can you come? Another pause. Let me check with Vincent. I'll call you back. I hung up, sat at the kitchen table with Arthur's letter in front of me. I'm coming for him, I said to the empty house. For me, for Charlotte, and for you. Charlotte called back an hour later. Vincent says we can come. What time? 6:30. Okay. See you then. That gave me the entire day to prepare, to practice being someone I wasn't anymore. The grieving widow, excited about garden renovations. Not the woman who'd spent the night digging up high-grade narcotics with a dog who was supposed to be dead. I went through the motions all day, grocery shopping, meticulously cleaning the house, setting the table with Arthur's best china. My hands shook when I put out the plates. My phone rang. Chief Miller. Evelyn. Are you ready for tonight? As ready as I'll ever be. You don't have to do this, you know. We can find another way. No. This is the only way that works quickly. I can do this. The police will be in position by 9. Unmarked cars on the street. Officers hidden in the neighbor's backyard. They'll be watching. And Shadow. He's much better. He was asleep for most of the morning, which is normal. He's on fluids and antibiotics. I have him secured at my place tonight. Good. Miller, if Vincent suspects anything, if you feel unsafe at all, you get out. You hear me? I hear you, I confirmed. We hung up. I went back to the mirror. Practiced my most convincing casual smile. They arrived at 6:30 exactly. I watched from the living room window as Vincent's expensive black truck pulled into the driveway. Charlotte got out first. She was wearing a thick, high-collared blouse under her blazer, despite the heat. Vincent came around and immediately put his hand on her lower back. She went rigid. I opened the door before they could knock. I put on my mask of a grateful, grieving mother. Come in. I hugged Charlotte, felt her flinch almost imperceptibly under my arms. She was thinner than the last time I'd seen her. Her wrists, when I accidentally brushed them, felt like dry bird bones. Hi, Mom. Hi, Vincent. I kept my voice warm, neutral. Hey, Mom. House looks good. You keeping up with everything okay? I'm managing. I led them to the dining room. Dinner's almost ready. Just need to get the chicken out of the oven. Vincent walked through the house like he owned it, pausing to look out the back window at the memorial garden. Garden's holding up well, he commented. Roses are doing good. Thanks to you. You did such a beautiful job building it. I saw his shoulders relax slightly. He thought I was still grateful. Still harmlessly clueless. We sat down to eat roasted chicken, asparagus, and mashed potatoes, the kind of predictable meal I'd made for family dinners 100 times. Vincent dominated the conversation, as always, talking about a big new construction job he'd landed near the coast, going on about square footage, budgets, and timelines. It's $1 million commission, he boasted. Takes up a lot of my time, but the payoff is substantial. Charlotte said almost nothing, just pushed food around her plate. She'd check her phone every few minutes, typing something quickly, then setting it down immediately. I watched Vincent's hand reach over and squeeze her wrist. Not affectionate, possessive, and controlling. She winced but didn't pull away. How had I missed this casual cruelty for so long? We were halfway through dinner when I brought it up. I kept my voice light, casual, and a little excited. I've been thinking about something. About the garden. Vincent's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. What about it? I want to expand it. Make it bigger. Add more of Arthur's favorite roses, maybe a small fountain or a water feature. Really make it spectacular. Something grand. The garden's perfectly fine the way it is, he stated instantly. I know, but I want more. Arthur deserves something really special and permanent. Vincent set his fork down with a sharp clink. That would be incredibly expensive, Evelyn. I don't care about the cost. I've already hired a landscaping company. A high-end firm out of Atlanta, actually. The color drained completely from Vincent's face. Atlanta? When? They're coming Monday morning. I'm so excited. They'll tear out everything, dig deep for new drainage and foundations, completely renovate the whole area. It'll take a few days, but it'll be worth it. Vincent's knuckles went white on his knife. Monday? That seems really fast. Maybe you should think about it more. I've been thinking about it for weeks. I called them 2 days ago, and they had an unexpected opening. They start Monday at 8 a.m. You should cancel it, he demanded, his voice dangerously low. Why would I cancel? I told you I want this. Because it's hasty. You're making a huge decision without thinking it through. What if you regret moving things around? Charlotte was watching Vincent, her face pale, her lips parted slightly in fear. I won't regret it, I said, meeting his eyes calmly. I've already paid a hefty deposit, $5,000. It's all set in stone. Vincent pushed back from the table so abruptly his chair scraped loudly across the floor. I need to use the bathroom. He left the dining room. I heard him go down the hall, then the sharp click of the bathroom door closing. Charlotte leaned across the table. Her voice was a breathy whisper. Why did you do that? Do what? Tell him about Monday. About digging up the garden. Mom, I don't understand. Why would that upset him so much? Charlotte's hands were shaking as she gripped the edge of the table. I don't know, but it did. You saw his face. Charlotte, what is going on? What are you afraid of? She pulled back rapidly as the bathroom door opened. Vincent came back into the room. We should go, he announced, checking his watch. I've got an early meeting tomorrow. But you haven't finished dinner, I protested lightly. I'm not hungry anymore. Come on, Charlotte. Charlotte stood up immediately, starting to gather her belongings. Stay, honey, I said, my voice gentle. Finish eating. Visit with me. Vincent's hand clamped hard on Charlotte's shoulder. She's my wife, Evelyn. She comes home with me. His eyes went hard, daring me to challenge him. Charlotte was already moving toward the door. It's fine, Mom. I'm tired anyway. I followed them to the door. Vincent was already outside. Charlotte turned back for just a second. Mom, I dashed. She stopped. Looked at Vincent, who was standing by the truck, impatiently waiting. I have to go. She left before I could say anything else. I watched them drive away, Vincent's truck disappearing down the avenue. I stood there until I couldn't see the tail lights anymore. Then I went inside and called Miller. He took the bait. He was panicking. Good. Miller's voice was steady. We're ready. Get some sleep if you can. Sleep, right? The rest of Friday night dragged. I couldn't focus on anything. I finally just sat in the dark living room, watching headlights pass by on the street, wondering which ones were police. Saturday was worse. The waiting was agony. I cleaned drawers that were already organized. Made food I didn't eat. Vincent's truck drove past my house twice. Once around noon, once around 4. Slow, like he was checking to see if I was home. Miller called in the evening. He's watching your house. Good sign. Means he's planning something. When? Tonight or tomorrow night? Probably tonight. He knows Monday morning is looming. He's running out of time. The sun set. I turned off most of the lights in the house, making it look like I'd gone to bed early. Then I sat in my bedroom in the dark watching the backyard. 10 o'clock. 11. Midnight. Nothing. 1 in the morning. 2. My eyes were heavy. I'd been awake for well over 40 hours. I kept blinking, trying to stay alert. 2:47 a.m. Movement at the end of the street. A vehicle coasting with no lights. Parked 3 houses down. My phone buzzed. A silent text from Miller. He's here. Stay inside. I watched Vincent get out of his truck. He was dressed all in black. He pulled something from the truck bed. A large, heavy-duty shovel, a compact flashlight, and a massive professional duffel bag. He moved through the shadows toward my house, staying off the sidewalk, coming through the neighbor's yard and into mine. He went straight to the memorial garden. Didn't hesitate. Knew exactly where he was going. He turned on the flashlight and started digging. Fast. Frantic. Throwing damp dirt everywhere. He dug for maybe 10 minutes before the shovel hit the metal box. He pulled it out and opened it. Even from my window, I could see his shoulders relax when he saw the packages inside. He loaded them into the duffel bag one by one, all 6 packages of white powder. He zipped the bag, hefted it over his shoulder, and turned toward the back fence. That's when the lights came on. Floodlights from every direction, the garage, the neighbor's house, lights I didn't even know existed. The backyard lit up like a football field at night. A massive voice boomed from the shadows. Police! Drop the bag. Put your hands in the air. Officers came from everywhere, the side yard, the back fence line, through the gate. 6 of them at least, all with weapons drawn. Vincent froze. The duffel bag slipped from his shoulder and hit the ground. His hands came up slowly. He looked around wildly, calculating, looking for a way out. Then he ran. Straight for the back fence. He was fast. The officers chased, but he had a slight head start. He reached the 6-foot fence, jumped, got his hands on top, and started pulling himself up. The officers were closing in, but he was almost over. That's when Chief Miller appeared from the side yard. He had something with him. A powerful Belgian Malinois. Miller shouted one sharp, specific command. The words were not German, but a specific K9 handler release word. Shadow took off like a shot. He crossed the yard in seconds. Vincent had one leg over the fence when Shadow reached him. The dog leaped and caught Vincent's other leg in his powerful jaws. Vincent screamed high, raw, animal sound, lost his grip, and fell backward off the fence hard. Shadow was on him immediately, trained apprehension hold, locked onto Vincent's arm, keeping him pinned to the ground. Vincent was screaming. Get him off! Get him off me! Shadow didn't move. Didn't release. Just held Vincent there while officers surrounded them. Miller gave a single quiet release command. Shadow released but stayed close, growling low and ready. Officers grabbed Vincent, flipped him over, and cuffed his hands behind his back. Vincent was still screaming hoarsely. That's impossible. You should be gone. He was staring at Shadow with pure, unadulterated terror. Stop resisting, an officer barked, pushing Vincent's face into the dirt. Vincent kept fighting and yelling. I'll kill you. All of you. That set me up. I'll make Charlotte pay for this. Keep talking, another officer said calmly. Everything's being recorded. They hauled Vincent to his feet. He saw me standing on the back porch watching the entire scene. You set me up, you crazy old bitch. I didn't say anything. Just watched as they dragged him through the side yard to a waiting police car. He was still screaming when they slammed him in the back seat. The screaming got muffled but did not stop. A detective, Detective Johnson, I thought, who I'd seen talking to Miller, came up onto the porch. Ma'am, we have everything we need. Vincent was caught on camera digging up the 6 kilos of narcotics, loading it into his bag, and attempting to flee. This is as solid as cases get. Will it be enough to convict him? Federal drug trafficking charges, assault on an officer, possession with intent to distribute. He's looking at 25 years minimum. With his prior record and the amount of product we found, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Miller came up the steps with Shadow. The dog was limping heavily, but his tail was giving weak, happy thumps against the porch. I knelt down. Shadow came to me. I put my arms around him, smelling the dirt, sweat, and effort. You did it, my boy. You completed your mission. Miller's voice was rough with emotion. I've never seen anything like it. This dog walked back from wherever Vincent took him just to finish the job. I was crying again, but these were tears of release. Arthur sent him. Arthur knew this would happen. Your husband gave you the best protection he could, Miller said. And Shadow delivered. We stood there for a while, watching the police process the scene, taking photos, bagging the evidence, the shovel, the duffel bag, the packages of narcotics. Vincent's black truck was towed away. Officers were everywhere. Detective Johnson came back to the porch. Ma'am, we'll need you to come down to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement, and we'll definitely need to talk to your daughter, Charlotte. She may have information about Vincent's activities. She's a victim, I stated fierce. He's been hurting her. She needs help, not interrogation. We understand that completely, the detective assured me. We have specialists who handle domestic violence cases. We will be gentle, but we do need to talk to her. When? Probably Monday. Give her the weekend to process this. The sun was coming up, painting the sky in pinks and oranges over the torn-up memorial garden. Police tape was strung everywhere. The place where Vincent had buried his drugs was a crater. Miller put his hand on my shoulder. You should get some rest, Evelyn. You've been up for 2 days. I need to call Charlotte, I said, exhausted. Tell her before she hears it on the news or somewhere else. You want me to stay? No. This needs to be just us. Mother and daughter. It's time for the truth. Miller left with Shadow. He carefully loaded the wounded dog into his truck to take him to the vet. The police finished up. The street slowly got quiet again. I went inside, sat at the kitchen table, and picked up my phone. Charlotte's number was right there. I dialed. It rang 4 times. Then her voice, thick with sleep. Mom, it's 6 in the morning. Charlotte, I need you to come over right now. It's about Vincent. A pause. What about Vincent? He's been arrested for federal drug trafficking. There's a lot you need to know, my girl. Silence. Long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then her voice came back, small and broken. I'm coming. She arrived an hour later. The sun was fully up now. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. She was shaking. I pulled her into my arms at the door. She collapsed against me and finally truly sobbed, not the controlled cries of grief, but the wrenching, desperate sobs of fear and release. Miller was still at the vet, dealing with Shadow's wounds. We sat at the kitchen table. I made coffee neither of us would touch. Vincent was arrested last night. I began gently. In the backyard, digging up 6 kilos of opioids he buried in Arthur's memorial garden. Charlotte nodded. Not surprised. Just deeply, profoundly tired. You knew something? Not about the drugs specifically, but I knew he was involved in something dangerous. I found out about 6 months after we married. I asked him about it. She stopped. Couldn't finish the sentence. And that's when he started hurting you, I finished for her. She wordlessly pushed up the sleeves of her blazer. Bruises in different stages of healing mottled her forearms. She lifted her shirt slightly to show more on her ribs. He said that if I ever left, he'd kill me, and then he'd come after you and Dad, she whispered. Make it look like accidents. He said I was responsible for his success. I believed him. I was terrified. I was crying, holding her hands tightly. Why didn't you tell us? I was ashamed and terrified. I thought I could handle it. I thought if I just did everything right, he'd stop. I showed her Arthur's letter. She read it and broke down again. Dad knew, she choked out. He was trying to save us even while he was dying. He got you Shadow, a retired police dog. He contacted Chief Miller, got police investigating Vincent. He planned all of this. Charlotte looked at me, a glimmer of awe in her tear-filled eyes. And you caught him. We caught him, I corrected. All of us. Arthur, Chief Miller, Shadow, and me. We survived. Miller came back later that afternoon with Shadow, who was heavily bandaged, slightly sedated, but alert. He also brought paperwork for restraining orders and resources for domestic violence counseling. Charlotte saw Shadow and started crying again. Vincent told us you were dead, she whispered. He tried, Miller said. But Shadow fought back and came home. Charlotte knelt down. Shadow walked to her gently, his tail giving a soft thump. She put her arms around his thick neck. Thank you. Thank you for protecting my mom. 3 months later, we were at my house, sitting on the porch, waiting for Chief Miller to call with news from the sentencing. Charlotte was living with me temporarily, finding her feet and attending counseling. She looked visibly better, less guarded. The phone rang. Miller's voice was jubilant. 25 years in federal prison. No parole eligibility for 15. I repeated the number to Charlotte. She cried, but not from sadness. It was a cry of pure cathartic relief. It's really over, Mom. It's really over. 6 months after Vincent's arrest, the memorial garden was in full glorious bloom. I'd spent the winter tending it myself, removed everything Vincent had built, and started fresh. Arthur's favorite roses were thriving. New perennials I'd chosen were flourishing. Arthur's photo sat among the flowers. Charlotte pulled into the driveway. She had her own apartment now, not far away. We'd started a tradition. Coffee and gardening together every Saturday morning. She looked healthy, smiling, and was wearing short sleeves, no new bruises, no need for the thick cardigans. We sat on the new wooden bench I'd installed. Shadow was lying contentedly in the sun on the grass. Older now, slowing down slightly but content. I filled out the volunteer application at the animal shelter, Charlotte said. I'm there Tuesday and Thursday mornings. We could go together. I'd like that very much, honey. Chief Miller's old truck pulled up. He did this often now, too. Brought coffee and terrible dad-level jokes. The three of us would sit together and talk about normal things. The weather, Charlotte's new job as a bookkeeper, Miller's fishing trips. Felt like family. I keep thinking about Dad, Charlotte mused. How he knew what was happening. How he planned everything. I touched Arthur's photo sitting among the roses. He loved us. Even when he couldn't be here anymore, he found a way to protect us. Miller nodded. Arthur was the smartest man I knew. And Shadow carried out the mission perfectly. Shadow's tail thumped, hearing his name. After Miller left, Charlotte and I worked in the garden together, planting new flowers, pulling weeds. Shadow watched from the shade. I never thought I'd feel safe again, Charlotte admitted. And now I do. Thanks to your father and Shadow. And you. You survived, my love. We all did. That evening, after Charlotte went home, I sat on the bench alone. Shadow came and lay down at my feet. The garden was beautiful in the fading light, real, honest. Nothing ugly hidden underneath anymore. Arthur once told me that love isn't just what you do when you're present. It's what you build to last when you're gone. He built this. The warning to the police. The dog who would find the evidence. The friend who kept his promise. Protection that reached beyond death. Vincent got 25 years. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Charlotte is healing. She laughs now, real laughs. She's building a life that's actually hers. Shadow is old, slowing down, but he still watches over us like he knows his job isn't quite finished. And me? I tend my garden. I volunteer at the shelter twice a week. Charlotte joins me sometimes. We're healing together while helping animals that need homes. I miss Arthur every single day. But I'm not alone. I have my daughter back. I have a hero at my feet. I have a life worth living. And I have love that never died. That's everything. So that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you believe dogs can sense when something's deeply wrong before we do? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more stories like mine.